2020 was literally the most hectic year for I think most people in the world. With 2020 being in our past, right now is a great time to kickstart your financial well-being for the year. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you 5 things I'm doing to kickstart my finances off on the right foot this year, and one bonus one that I really don't think people talk about but is specific to me, and so I really want to share that with you guys. So if that's something you're interested in, definitely stick around for this video. Hey guys, my name is Adrienne. Welcome back to my channel. I post videos every Monday on all things investing and personal finance, so if that's something you're interested in, definitely go ahead and click the subscribe button below. And with that said, let's jump into the video. So the first thing I do every year, doesn't matter what the past year was like, is I start a fresh budget. So I made an entire video of how I track my expenses and I track my budget monthly, and you guys can go check that video out. But I basically use that spreadsheet, which I'll link down in the description bar below. I use that spreadsheet throughout the year. So within one spreadsheet, I have my annual budget, which is where I track my annual expenses, but then I also have a tab for each month. And so I start a new one of those every year. And the way I track my expenses through that is maybe a few times a month, I'll go in and I'll put all of my expenses in. I will update my spreadsheet with all of my expenses from my checking account, my credit cards, any expenses that I've made, so that I know how much money I've spent throughout the month and then throughout the year, because I think it's also a good idea to give you a good picture of what you were spending in a year. I haven't done a video on how I budget for a year, but that will be coming soon, so stay tuned for that. The second thing I do is I make sure that I have maxed out my Roth IRA from the previous year. So right now, I would make sure I have contributed the max to 2020's Roth IRA. Even though we're in 2021 right now, you are allowed to contribute to the previous year's Roth IRA until the tax deadline. So that's April 15th. If you haven't maxed out your Roth IRA from last year and you qualify for one, this is the time to do it, just to make sure that you are fully contributed to it so that you don't miss out on that deadline. The third thing that I do, and this is also along the same lines, is that I start contributing to this year's Roth IRA if I qualify. Depending on what the market is, if you have the funds that you can contribute to your Roth IRA available now, you can use that to your advantage, because you can see when the market is down or when it's up, or you can take advantage more of when is the best time to invest the money that's within your Roth IRA. So for example, let's say I can put $3,000 into my Roth IRA. I can transfer that money into my Roth IRA right now. However, I have to then go ahead and invest the money within that Roth IRA. So the cash just sitting in my Roth IRA isn't really doing anything different than if that money were sitting in like a bank account. You have to actually go and invest that. The way I have seen it is, if the market is down, like right now the market is really high, I did just transfer some money into my 2021 Roth IRA, but I'm not investing it currently right now because the market is really high, and I'll probably wait until the market dips a little bit before I go ahead and buy some index funds. At least that's my plan. Regardless of how the market is doing, just knowing that you have that money available and you have a little bit more control over when you can invest it is just a better place to be than if you were just to contribute that money like last minute into your Roth IRA, like at the end of the year. Actually, I take that back. Once you transfer the money in, you can invest it whenever you want. It's just the earlier you do it, one, the more control you have over when you want to invest it in the market, but also technically the longer it's in the market, the more time it has to grow. And that may not mean a ton to anybody, but even like a year between January and December this year, that's still one calendar year, but your returns could be vastly different if you invest in January versus December. So that's just my 2 cents. The fourth thing I do is I create my financial goals. So January is a great time to start thinking about your goals if you haven't already thought about them. Like, do you want to max out your Roth IRA, your 401k? Do you want to start saving for a down payment on a house, or do you want to buy a house? Like, what are your goals? I truly believe that goals can change throughout the year. A year is a long time for something to happen. Like last year I bought a home, but I was definitely not planning on buying a home. For me, if I have goals I actually want to accomplish, I will create a plan, but just like an actual step-by-step of how I'm going to do this. For example, if I wanted to max out my Roth IRA, I'd be like, okay, what is the most feasible way to do this for me? That may be, if the max you can contribute to a Roth IRA is $6,000, that means $500 a month. Figure out how you can save $500 a month from your earned income to contribute to your Roth IRA or something like that. For me personally, my goals are a little bit different this year because I quit my job a couple weeks ago. So my goals are a lot more simple, and honestly, I'm not putting a numerical value to anything other than, yes, I will probably always max out my Roth IRA, but other than that, my goals are kind of more, I don't know, subjective, not exactly ordinary, and I'm not one to restrict myself too much just because I feel like that can restrict me in being generous and managing my money in a way that glorifies the Lord. So for me, one of the things is, because I'm not technically making a quote unquote normal income, is just to be mindful of my spending. I'm not worried that I'm going to be overspending. I've never been an overspender, but yeah, that's one thing I'm going to be keeping in mind throughout the year. And the second thing is along the lines of me not having a normal income, is that I'm just right now in a state of maintaining my investments. Last year and the year before, I was like gung-ho about saving, investing, saving as much as I could, because I was making a good amount of money that I could save. At least right now, this year is not going to be that kind of year. And so I'm just going to be focusing on watching my investments, making sure that they are where they should be, well diversified, and invested in what makes sense for me. And I also want to note that I think a lot of times the misconception that people in their 20s, like millennials, get is that they need to be working so hard. And I'm so for working hard, but sometimes the money isn't always worth it. I'm not explaining this well. Not every year is going to be a year of growing. I don't think every year should be a year of you making as much money as you can and working your butt off to get that money, because honestly, like, you're going to burn out. It's not sustainable. And if you're trying to do that, kudos to you. Especially when I was commuting, I was so just stressed out about everything, but I was aggressively saving during that time. It really wore me out. And I think that is why I got to this point where I really needed to take a break and do something that I truly love and pursue what I love to do. And that comes to my next goal. A lot of people around me have been asking, or we talk about, what is your word for the year? What's your true like intention going into this year? I think because of a lot of things that happened last year in my life, my goal is really just to enjoy life, like to enjoy, like truly enjoy like the small things, truly enjoy just like the daily mundane tasks, and just not worry as much about what people think of me or like my position or my career. Although all of those things are important, they're not everything. And my word is going to be joy for the year. So I would encourage you to also pick a word. And if you do have a word, let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to hear it. And the fifth thing that I do, which is a little weird, is I do my taxes at the beginning of the year. And so the reason I do my taxes so early is, one, my rule on taxes, which is countercultural to I think what everyone thinks about taxes, you actually don't want to get a tax refund, because that tax refund is money that you last year paid to the government that you did not have to pay to begin with. And so if you had that money in your pocket last year, instead of giving it to the government, you could have had that money invested, you could have had that money growing for you, and you lost an entire year of that growth because the government was holding on to your money. So that's my 2 cents on tax refunds. It's actually better if you have organized your taxes so that you owe money. Obviously, if you are getting a tax refund right now, like, that's not a bad thing, but just know that for the future. And also, if you know you're going to get a tax refund, do your taxes as early as possible so that you can get your refund back as soon as possible. But if you know that you owe taxes, do your taxes as late as possible so that that money that you have that you would otherwise pay in taxes, that money can grow while you have it, and then you can pay the government. Personally, I use TurboTax to do my taxes. I was also thinking, if you guys want me to do any sort of taxes video, because I know tax season is coming, let me know down in the comments. I will also link some videos on taxes I've done in the past in the description bar if you guys want to go check those out. And the last goal I think that I have is that because I just left my employer, I am going to be rolling over my Roth 401k from my employer into my Roth IRA. And so there's been several people who have asked me to do a video on how I've previously talked about rolling over a Roth 403b into my Roth IRA. And right now I'm in the process of rolling over my Roth 401k into my Roth IRA. I'm going to wait until that whole process is done until I make that video, but that video is coming soon for you guys if you are also in that same situation. And I will also say, if you have left an employer, it is not necessary that you roll over all of your investments into one account. Like, it's not necessary that I roll over my Roth 401k into my Roth IRA. However, and I'm speaking from personal experience just because I talked to you guys about how my aunt passed away last year, and my mom is the executor of the estate, and she is now dealing with all of the 401ks and retirement plans that my aunt had with her employers. And she had at least 8 employers, and she had, I think they were all 401ks with each employer. So now my mom has to go through each one of those retirement plans and call each one of them and just manage all of that just to figure out how they can put that into my aunt's estate. I watched my mom do it, and it's so much work. And so it is a much simpler process if you are alive and able to do this than if you, Lord forbid, something happens. But if you pass away and somebody has has to go figure all this out for you. So that's one reason why rolling your money into one account or having all of your money in one account is a good idea. It's also just like, it's more simple for you. You know where your money is. You can log into one place and see what all of your money is doing. And another reason why rolling over a retirement plan into your own account is advantageous is because within my employer's retirement plan, there are significant limitations in how I can invest that money. There's only, I don't know, maybe 25, 30 different kinds of funds I can invest in. Whereas if I put that money into my Roth IRA, I can invest that money into whatever I want. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you did, definitely go ahead and click the like button and subscribe below. And I will catch you guys next Monday. Bye guys. I'm about to sneeze.